guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about AMC getting paid, the Robinhood AMC hold, Citadel position examination, and many more in this video. So first, we're taking a look at this. Breaking Delaware court rules AMC settlement shares as insurable loss. Jury to decide insurance payout. This is beneficial to the company and shareholders. So this is something we talked about in terms of the 2023 settlement, and what we're seeing are the decisions to be made. So this is something that has been identified as insurable loss, and therefore we get to decide, or at least the judge gets to decide, whether or not we get the insurance payout. Now, what does this mean for AMC? So for Grok's definition is Delaware's court ruling means AMC settlement share count as an insurable loss, potentially unlocking insurance payout for the company. This could boost AMC's finances and benefit shareholders, but a jury will decide the final payout amount. Buckle up, meme stock fans, this could get wild. So this is obviously the short understanding of it. Essentially, we could get a large amount of money. Now, once again, increase in capital, I'm sure anyone will understand this, is obviously extremely beneficial for AMC, obviously for multiple purposes. Firstly, it would increase the money they have, whether it's to pay off debt, which again would be another good thing, whether it's to grow the company, so improve their infrastructures, create new revenue streams, and or this is what we talked about in the past. Now, this would be something I think out of the three that I've mentioned to be the least likely, but it actually increases the percentage, which is of course the potential of dividends. If we were to get a large amount of money, which puts us in a very good position in terms of cash wise, then obviously that potential of a dividend is obviously on the table. And so this is obviously what we are looking at. Now, already we have to understand AMC's fundamentals has been great. We've just recently seen the Q4, and now obviously going into the next few months, we're going to be seeing Q1, Q2, etc. And so if we are able to get this amount of money on board and we're able to then use it on what's already working, on top of the revenue, on top of the fundamentals that's already improving, then you can obviously understand the speed for the growth of AMC in the future. And so like I said, whether in terms of understanding, is this important? I do believe so, because of the many potential it has, and in terms of understanding what we could be doing in the future with this. So recently, a lot of news has happened. So we've just seen how we saw good news for AMC. We're also seeing, now I want to say that this is obviously good and bad news. So I think this is more towards a bad news because I think this is ridiculous, but I think this is good news because of what it signifies. So you can see here, how much money would Robinhood have lost if it didn't restrict trading in GME and AMC? Instead, it pays a $29.5 million fine and admits no wrongdoing to settle several investigations into how it does business. So FINRA said that the latter turned into a severe problem in January 2021 when Robinhood restricted trading in meme stocks such as GameStop and AMC Entertainment Holdings. So this is obviously something that we should all know, of course, with Robinhood's holding of AMC and GME. And what we knew was AMC and GME took up a large amount of their value at risk, a large amount of their collaterals, and had AMC and GME not been halted, had it squeezed, we would have seen many institutions, many short sellers, and again, the brokers like Robinhood to have been wiped out. And so that's what they were halted for. Now, this was obviously an extreme problem because the money that was at stake here was far more than the 29.5 million that they have paid. This was obviously in the hundreds of billions like we've covered in the past. And so when I say this is good news, it's because what I'm trying to say is understanding the fact that we are still acknowledging that this was a massive problem for the brokers, for the short, and that this was real. Now, we already knew it was real, but if you needed more proof, this would have obviously been more proof. And what we also know is that, of course, the shorts, the brokers, they have never got out of these positions. So this situation that they were in back in 2021, they are still currently in 2025. And so in terms of the good news is understanding that we still see the problem that they are in. In terms of the bad news, you can obviously see how ridiculous this is. Just like I've mentioned, hundreds of billions were involved here. And they stole that from us. And they only had to pay a $29.5 million fine, which, by the way, isn't even to the people who they harm. This is obviously to the regulations. This is the fine they had to pay. And again, firstly, the fine is minimal. Secondly, it isn't actually solving the problem. It hasn't helped with the problem. It hasn't actually covered anyone who was affected by this problem. And so I do, like I said, I am 100% on the side that this is ridiculous, that it should be more punishment for this. There should be more things done for this, but in terms of the silver lining here, it's understanding that the shorts are still stuck, and they obviously are showing here with what they have done and what they want to try and hide away from everyone, because they didn't want the further and several investigation into how it does business, because they obviously don't want to show how big of a position they truly are trapped in. Furthermore, we can see this. Citadel Securities 2024 annual report shows it repledged its 2023 debt assets, and the 2023 pledge assets are all those 2021 and 2022 shares sold, not yet purchased. The market maker isn't trying to pay back the billion it owns, they're just hiding it debt under more layers. And so this again goes back to what we talked about here. They are hiding a position. They pay this fine because they don't want a several investigation to show that the position, that the problems they've created back in 2021 are still existent as of now. And this is the same thing. We're seeing this with Citadel. So we've seen one with broker and we're seeing one with short funds. And what we are seeing, like we see, the 2021, again, AMC GME, 2022, AMC and GME, and these were repledged in 2023. And so what we know was that 2023 was also involved of AMC and GME. And then in 2024, when they repledged the 2023, we then also knew that they just carried over the 2021 positions, the 2022 positions, which are positions full of AMC and GME short positions. And so you can see how this is obviously just going, and they're just trying to wrap it up. It's just layers upon layers. But it's understanding that they are trapped in these positions, that they are trapped in these debts, and that they can't get out of this. So if you're wondering why they constantly feel the need to try and make these news to get you to sell your AMC shares, to make you believe that AMC is going to go bankrupt, and just in fact trying to get AMC bankrupt, is because they need to get these positions out, which they've been kicking the can down the road for the last 4-5 years. And again, they will continue to obviously do so until either one, they go bankrupt, or B, we go bankrupt. Now, just like we talked about with the good news at the start, if we were to get more money, which improves our infrastructures, which improves our fundamentals, then you can obviously understand how the possibility of AMC's going bankrupt is obviously close to zero, and that's gonna then be the deciding factor for why these shorts will obviously blow up. You can also see Citadel to appear before US court reporter for examination into their assets, liabilities, and financial condition. So we have obviously talked about this in one of our past videos. And you can understand the situation of this, just like we've mentioned in the past, whether it's with what we just talked about now, whether it's what we talked about in previous videos, they obviously have a lot of positions in which they don't want to show. Just like how Robinhood didn't want to show their business structures, their positions, we are seeing the same with Citadel, especially when you understand that they've hid, these positions that are 4 or 5 years old, that are losing tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and that they've created tens of billions, hundreds of billions of these synthetic shares, which they're of course all trying to hide. And so this investigation is obviously going to create panic for them, but it's also, if done correctly, going to bring transparency, and it will obviously bring that clairvoyance for us, that clarity for us, and that's obviously what we want to see. But if we were to get these informations, I definitely do think it would be something that is extremely shocking because of everything that they have done in the past. You can also see here, ever since Ken Griffin mentioned Nvidia and AMC in the same sentence while wishing retailers holding Nvidia, I knew Nvidia is used as collateral by shorts in AMC. Nvidia has high quality products, but it's grossly overvalued. What happens if investors move from Nvidia to AMC? Now, This isn't to say that Nvidia is a bad investment. Again, none of this is financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and make sure you do, take what I say grain of salt. But something that I've said, in my personal opinion, is that Nvidia is obviously overly inflated because of the market sentiment, because of everything that is obviously talked about. And you can see how Nvidia has drastically lost a big amount of value in the last few days. And so what was once their, kind of top quality collaterals that they used has now obviously dropped drastically. And we talked about how the value that was disappearing from Nvidia equated to over $1,000 per share for AMC had that value gone to AMC. And that's something we are likely going to be seeing in the future, because just like we've mentioned, they use Nvidia as collaterals, and because the collateral is going, it obviously will have to go somewhere. And once they can't contain AMC, that's where the value will be going. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching the video. I'll catch you guys next time.